It's all gonna wash away.
How much
You gotta go down
you
there.
get?
Foot and a half or anywhere from an inch to a foot and a half.
Party in Lancaster. Friday, Saturday.
Probably
just might not get bad.
Well, somebody might not be going.
It might be rain, it might be snow.
Well, I'm not gonna take a chance. The hell with that.
All right, it's 8 o'clock. Let's call the Finance and Admin Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please, Melissa.
Steve Bruner,
Here.
Ron Stanko,
Here.
Bill James,
Here?
Dave Reeser,
Here.
Keith Bear.
Here. Any public comment at this point?
I'd like to say a couple of words. Again, we've discussed this, I mean, I brought this up several times, the issue about using for-profit consultants to do jobs that could be done by hired personnel. I think it still needs to be looked into. I don't know if you guys get these reports, but I did get a right-to-know request on how much we paid. And it's close to $1 million, at least the ones that I knew. I mean, probably there are more. I think we need to look at this. It doesn't make sense to have to pay consultant fee for someone to look at their weeds on some property or something like that. And I want to say I'm looking at other municipalities now, how they do their business, how meetings are done. And I want to say so far, I don't want to say that I haven't seen this, but so far, none of the ones that I looked at does this. Nobody brings a consulting engineer to the borough council just to sit there primarily. That's a lot of money that we pay Jim. I think we need to revisit this. You are the stewards of the money for this borough, and I think there are ways to do this better. You know, every West Reading, Cumru, they hire their own code inspectors. It's not rocket science. And again, with all due respect, you bring an engineer here many times, none of you has any engineering background, so you have no valid questions to ask him. So again, I will urge you to look at this. $1 million a year is a lot of money that we can do a lot of stuff with it. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, I just want to comment that it was nice that the agenda includes the attachments, and Melissa, thank you for making that change as of 2024.
Oh, it does. That's nice.
Much
Thank
appreciated.
you.
I got a separate.
Okay. Go ahead, public comment, go ahead.
On the website was.
As under the public comment, Mr. Jadick alluded to numerous times. I don't know if his numbers are factual or not, but this so-called what we pay our engineer, those fees are passed along to the developer, so the borough is not out of pocket that money. So this is a misnomer. He's been told this numerous times and continues to accuse us of doing so. That's all I have. Thank you.
And to be clear, we do pay the borough engineer and other consultants out of our pocket, but a good portion of it does get passed through. Okay.
But we do pay
Cash
codes
cash
to
update
check
bills,
on
cash
weeds,
update
right?
bills.
At the end of December, cash and investments totaled $10,444,000. It was an increase since the end of November of $116,000. During December, we did finally receive the Green Light Go reimbursement that had been submitted in June, so that the pending grant reimbursements at the end of the year totaled $64,000. That represents money that we're waiting for reimbursement for police computer equipment. And John did reach out to Senator Schwenk's office to get some assistance in getting that money released. Hopefully we will see some of that soon. The other piece of that was for the bike share stations, and we've already received that reimbursement in the first week of 24. So with the pending grant reimbursements, our total cash and investments would be $10,508,000. Interest rates at Tompkins were bumped up to 4.85. The ICS network still stays at 3%. The Pliget, which is all liquid money now, ranges from 5.2 to 5.56. So if we look at the detail of Pliget, where most of the money is sitting, in December, 4 terms matured that yielded $65,000 in interest. Throughout the year, 21 million in Pliget terms were purchased and matured. At the end of the year, there are no additional terms that will be maturing. So total Pliget interest on the matured terms totaled $441,000. That together with interest earned on Pliget Class and Prime, as well as bank interest, total interest income for the year was $684,000, a positive variance of $568,000. We did incur interest expense as we started to advance on the loan, so our net interest for the year is $566,000. Now with the Pliget, the money is now sitting in either class at 5.2. That's with a next day liquidity so that I can advance whenever needed for operations. The remainder, the 7 million, is sitting in Pliget Prime at 5.56. That I'm allowed to make 2 redemptions each month. So I need to plan a little bit as our cash needs dictate. So the rates that now exist, as I said, we are in the class and the prime. Looking at the maturities for 24, the prime is actually currently earning more than any of the available terms. Our only risk in not investing and selecting some future terms would be if interest rates fall and we're not locked in at a rate that's over 5%. So we'll need to keep a close watch on interest rates. If they do start to fall, we might want to lock in a term at some future date. But at this point, I don't see a need to do so.
It will fall this year. Sure.
So depends on what crystal ball you're looking at.
Pretty obvious, but okay.
My recommendation is not to select any terms at this time, but to watch the interest rates. Any questions on cash and investments?
No, we do have to keep an eye on that.
Okay. Activity for the month of December included net real estate taxes of $29,000, other local taxes of $705,000. The Green Light Go reimbursement was $187,000. We did receive the second piece of the Benetcon reimbursement. That would be the surplus from 2022, and that totaled $150,000. Pliget maturity for $65,000, and we did advance on the note. Advance number 2 was for $55,000. Revenues for the month of December totaled $2,103,000, bringing the year-end total to $23,450,000. That is a positive variance compared to last year as well as to the budget. And I do have detail on the variances for the year. Expense activity for the month of December included deposit on the pedestrian bridge for $37,000, payment on sewer application number 5 for $11,000. The first payments were made to the garage contractor for plumbing and HVAC, because it's really just the initial bonding and insurance, so there was no actual work performed yet. $10,000 for the Wyomissing Hill pillars, as well as $4,600 was paid for the first portion of the lead rule administration. Expenses in the month of December totaled $1,615,000, bringing the year total to $23,983,000. That is a negative variance, so we had more expenses in 23 than 22, $3.3 million, which reflects the fact that we accomplished more of our capital projects. It, however, was a positive variance when compared to what had been budgeted of $963,000. That was reflective of some projects that were delayed to 24. On a net basis, for the month of December, revenues exceeded expenditures by $487,000, bringing the year-end deficit down to $532,000, better than we had anticipated because some of the expenses did not materialize. As I said, I do have more information on those variances. When that year total deficit of 532 is added to beginning of the year fund balance, we end the year with an overall fund balance of $11,453,000. When we budgeted for 2023, we had anticipated our year-end fund balance would be $8,398,000, so that is a positive variance of $3 million. There is $3,133,000 in reserves at the end of the year, bringing our unreserved fund balance to $8,319,000. Again, when we budgeted for 2023, we thought our unreserved fund balance would be $7.2 million. So that is a positive variance of $1,048,000. Those variances can be explained as follows. In revenues, we had anticipated for the year $21,528,000. Our actual revenues were $23,450,000. So the revenue variance was positive by $1,922,000, explained by just a couple big pieces that we've discussed throughout the year. The net interest was $566,000. The total net proceeds on the note, those are the advances we made, totaled $317,000. $300,000 was received from the Highlands to contribute towards the cost of that West Lawn Interceptor. Permit activity exceeded what was budgeted by $238,000. However, that is offset by additional fees that we incur. Benecon reimbursement exceeded budget by $120,000. So those items total $1.5 million of that positive deficit. All other items netted against each other total $378,000. On the expense side, there were projects that were delayed, including the West Lawn Interceptor, the balance of the Boulevard Pump Station, the Records Library, the Police HVAC, the traffic study, the balance of the pedestrian bridge, the Forest Stewardship Study, as well as a timing device for the police department. Those items that were delayed from the 23 budget into 24 total $1,651,000. All other items were actually netted to a deficit of $688,000. Those were all the budget overages that we talked about throughout the year. Everything from the settlement of the firefighters contract to change orders on the street work. All those items actually net to a negative variance. So we end the year where we had anticipated a deficit of $3,419,000, ending the year with a deficit of $532,000 is a positive variance of $2,886,000. Does that follow for everybody?
Very good way to start the year.
When we look at reserves at the end of the year during December, we added $10,000 for MS4. Additional bike route proceeds were accumulated, and we paid the deposit for the pedestrian bridge. So the activity for December was just $27,000. What I've added to the reserves at the 24 adjustment were the items that were budgeted for 23, but fell into 24, so that we reserved for those items. The cost of those items were also adjusted if we had new information and we found out what was originally budgeted would cost us more, so that we end the year with reserves of $3,133,000. When we budgeted and planned for 24, and we looked at the reserves that we had anticipated at the end of the year, it included some estimates. With the actual numbers, we were $3,000 off of what we thought the reserves would be. Did you shake your finger?
I won't like
Okay. Any question?
Don't have to with it.
Any question on the reserves?
So to be clear, the 2024 adjustments were work that we prepared, that we thought we were gonna do in 23 that hasn't been done and adjusted for inflation if the price went up or down for that matter.
Yes.
Wasn't there another grant for the West Lawn Interceptor that was approved?
There was a grant that has been awarded, but we would not reserve money that we haven't received yet.
But that's gonna offset that $950,000.
No, it's gonna add to it. The cost of the project is more than.
1.5.
Right, so we need the $950
So you netted
that
that
we've
against it.
reserved, plus the future grant reimbursement we would receive.
The net is $950 of the grant,
Yes,
well, less than $300,000 from the highway.
that's included in the reserve, yes. A quick update on remaining capital projects during December. App number 5 was paid on the sewer improvements, and the app number 2 for the Boulevard pump station was approved and is actually being paid in today's check run. On the garage, during December, advance number 2 was made for $55,000, bringing the year-end note balance to $317,000, with $1,800 in interest having been incurred. The infrastructure in December approved the first application for the general contractor, Bolton, in the amount of $266,997. Berkey Construction is also included in today's check run for $10,000. So I'm requesting that the committee approve advancing the third advance in the amount of $276,997 to cover those expenditures.
Like, that's for the council ratify next week.
I'm asking the committee to make a
Or move on to
recommendation to
council.
council. Yes.
Thank you.
Does anyone want me to?
But do we wanna do that now, or do we wanna do that when we get down in order?
Oh, well, we can, I guess we can come
Might
back
as
to
well
that.
follow the train, huh?
Okay.
We'll get there.
Okay. For capital expenditures in December, in addition to the pedestrian deposit and the application for the sewer of 11,000, engineering fees were incurred for the pump station, so that December capital expenditures totaled 50,000, bringing the year-to-date total to 3,377,000. Any questions
The
on
engineering fees
expenditures
are
for
part
December?
of- The engineering fees are part of the pump station that we're improving, correct?
Yes.
Which is part of the development over, is that what we're talking about over?
No,
Yeah,
Berkshire, this is Berkshire
The
Boulevard.
Berkshire pump, thank you.
But regardless, we need a new pump station, it
No,
needs
yeah,
to be upgraded.
understood, yeah.
On the revenue side, the tax collector thus far has received, for December, 14,000 in real estate taxes, bringing the year-to-date total to 4,617,000, leaving 98,000 or 2% uncollectible, or not collected, I would say not uncollectible. She continues to receive mail that was postmarked in 2023, so that number is not yet finalized. She'll have a few more days of mail receipts to post for the year, and I will give you updated figures when I
And
get
you'll
them.
you'll adjust the 23 data then, right, but it was
Not the revenue, because we are on a cash
cash
basis.
based, so.
But I will update the tax collector's report, yes.
Thank you.
When the 24,000 in gross, when penalties and interest are added, as well as delinquent and interim taxes, the net real estate taxes for December total 29,000, bringing the year total to 4,749,000. Compared to the budget, that is a positive variance of 24,000. The 24 budget is for 5,079,000, and that's reflected of the 4 mil tax increase. Local taxes for the month of December totaled $705,000, bringing the year total to $5,828,000. That is a negative variance compared to last year and compared to the budget of $203,000. Most categories were less than had anticipated. The budget for '24 is for $5,823,000, so that seems, based on the current year collections, very reasonable.
If I remember correctly, 23, we were very aggressive
We were
on those
aggressive,
dollar amounts
yes,
as opposed to previous years when we were, let's just call it less than aggressive
that is
on those
conservative,
assumptions. So
yes.
I think we found our baseline now at this point. Okay.
For net, real estate transfer tax, the December total was $14,000, bringing the year total to $528,000. It fell short of the $700,000 budget by $171,000. As we reported throughout the year, residential activity was sluggish, and there were very few commercial properties. There was some news of potential sales in the fall. Would you have any updates on this?
Still in the works. There are two, not that property we've been talking about, that is still in the works. There are two other relatively substantial commercial properties that are scheduled to go to settlement by the end of this month. One, I think council will be very pleased to hear that it will be changing into different hands, but I will confirm once that transaction goes through.
So with ending the year at 528, our '24 budget is at 600,000, so kind of a middle ground between what we had budgeted and where we ended the year. So I think the 600,000 is realistic, particularly in light of the commercial properties that Michelle's discussed. For earned income tax, December totaled $521,000, bringing the year's total to $3,171,000, 28,000 short of the 3.2 that had been budgeted. The 521 was a little higher than anticipated, and of course we didn't know about that until December. So next year's budget of $3,125,000 seems very reasonable.
Same comment I said before.
For mercantile tax, unexpected, Wilson remitted $72,000. That is much higher than previous history has brought us in the last month of the year. So that the year-to-date, or the total mercantile tax for the year ends with $1,564,000, where $1,532,000 have been budgeted. We're ending with a positive variance of $32,000. We originally did not think anything was going to be received from Burke CIT, because I had not received any reports from them for the month. We found out late yesterday that there is an additional $228 in mercantile tax that will be reported for '23. And I'll need to go back and make those adjustments.
Another
So
lunch.
the question comes up, why is there nothing in the Wyomissing category?
That's,
That's the $228.
yes.
Ooh, boy. Okay.
So, with a '24 budget of $1,518,000, it seems very attainable for the current year.
18.
Lastly, with local services tax, December we received $96,000, bringing the year's total to $563,000. That was $36,000 less than the $600,000 had been budgeted. For '24, the budget is for $580,000, kind of a middle ground between current receipts and what we had anticipated. So again, I think that is a reasonable expectation. Any question on December or year-end results?
So simplicity for me, Phyllis. When we look at our revenue and our budget, because of all the services that were not done, what was the total negative number when you factor in was it $500,000, somewhere in that range? What I'm looking for is, what's the net number if everything we budgeted for in '23 would have been done?
Well, there was $1.6 million of projects that were not completed.
And compared to 1.9 million in excess revenues.
Correct.
So the difference would be the 532.
Yeah, I mean, there's other factors in there, but yes.
But basically, the unreserved fund balance is 8.3 with a target,
With
looking at a target
target
of 7.2.
Correct.
So the unreserved fund balance is 1.1 million better than anticipated.
Correct.
That's why we want to do back on the committee, make it simple for me, thanks.
Now, for next year's reporting, Steve, you had made some comments earlier. Are you interested in continuing to see a 3-year comparative, or do you think 2 years is adequate?
I think 2 years is adequate.
We had added the 3rd year when we were
Well,
showing
we're
some.
talking about the current year, the year before, and the year before, right?
So 24, 23, and 22.
Correct.
So
We
you
did that
would,
because of the COVID issue.
We
Yes.
did that because of the COVID thing, I remember that.
right. You think that the current year and the prior year is adequate?
That's what
Yeah,
I would.
I think the prior years, especially now that we have a tax increase coming.
Okay.
in the
That will
beginning of this year.
simplify display and make it a
Yes.
little easier to follow.
Yeah, that was the whole COVID effect that.
We had that COVID year in there where we had no expenses, but we still had revenue coming in, so
That
we had
makes
to,
sense.
that didn't make
2
any.
years is plenty.
Steve and I also discussed continuing the use of monthly budgets, which we will do. They may not be ready for the January reporting, because January is very full with lots of compliance deadlines I need to meet. But by February, I will have the budget that was approved spread over the 12 months, looking at unique timing situations.
That does bring up a question. I know you're always under a tight constraint, of course, that's what accountants are always doing, you're under tight schedules. But do you ever think maybe changing the finance meeting to a later date?
Well, the reason we have it, what we
Because
do,
council,
is so that any motions that are needed
for
can be
council.
timely approved. For
We used to meet
example,
on a Tuesday, didn't we?
But even you could do it on, you
Did
could
it
do it
Thursday before.
Friday, Monday, or Tuesday morning.
That
You can
doesn't
pick up
give
a couple
Melissa a
days,
lot of
big
time
part.
to do the minutes, though.
But what's
That
that?
doesn't give Melissa any time to do the minutes and get everything out to council.
I would prepare the agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is the shortest possible
It's
turnaround,
pretty tight as it is.
yeah.
where the
We
month.
changed it, didn't we change this a year or two ago?
We
Yes.
did, and there's a few months in the year where it is a 2 to 3 day turnaround.
Yes,
I
but
plan
like
for
today.
it, work accordingly, and it is what it is, and it gets done.
Not the
Other-
first rodeo is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Not just sort
It's-
of point,
It's tight, but we make it work.
If we move the council back a week, then we could do it.
That would be,
Well,
that would really be.
you know, hey, there's nothing like change.
Well, but if you're looking for that period of time, then you would move this back. I mean, if that's what you're looking for, there's a gap.
You can't move it back though, because then we wouldn't have all the numbers for the previous month. wouldn't we?
Right.
And the-
Right.
I mean, it's 6 and 1.
Yeah,
This
right,
seems to be.
right. But just brought up the point to see if there was
No. Fair.
any way to fix it.
Probably not. But it's a good question.
Okay, any other questions for the information that was presented by Phyllis?
The only thing I'll mention is on your investment accounts, if you truly have money that you absolutely feel you don't need liquid, you may want to consider some longer-term liquid account if you're getting investment. Everything you read says interest rates are coming down. I just don't think you're gonna see 5% interest rates
So
anymore.
we'll look at how that one schedule, they go from 5.6 down to 5.
I mean, if you truly have dollars that you will not need liquid, you could consider putting something out there as far as 240 for 5.19, because I think they're probably gonna be an intersecting within the next 2 months or so. It's a gamble, but it's probably an intersecting number around 2 months where you're gonna start seeing a positive effect versus a negative, even though you might lose 0.3 or something now. Just a thought. But only if you truly have extra dollars that you
We
can.
do, we never go
So
into
it's a risk,
the
but
full reserve.
if all the analysts are correct, interest rates are coming down.
If we're
You're not
looking
gonna- you're gonna sit here 3 months from now going, I wish I would have invested in 5.19.
Right.
Keith, of the 7 million that is sitting in the prime account, we will never eat into, say, 4,000, or 4 million of that.
I don't know if I'd go as high as 4 million, but to take the risk, but maybe 2 or,
Well, go 3.
if you really don't need it, I think it's a risk, but I think you will have a positive effect somewhere during the year.
And there's no risk, okay, so you're saying that we don't need those funds at this point?
I'm comfortable committing 4 to 5 million to future terms.
4 to 5.
I don't go that high, but.
So Keith, you're talking about 240 days versus.
Well, at
100.
5.19, you're currently at the one interest, you're getting 5.18, the other one you're getting 5.54. So you're talking about taking a risk between 5.19 and 5.54. You're hedging that interest rates are gonna come below 5.19. And at some point in time, those two will intersect and you'll start being ahead of where you are in your prime account. And
270 is also factored on that, 270 days.
yeah, I was just looking for a shorter term. I mean, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
There's no advantage to going to 5.19 unless you really think they're gonna come down a lot, and then you wanna lock in as long as you can, but just a thought.
Or could we settle on maybe 3-4 million?
Well, I don't know that we want to look at 4 million.
I don't believe our current agenda allows us to do that.
We could certainly have it, I could do it under my manager's report at council next week.
Yeah, it's a good idea. So why don't you bring up in the council report, why don't we, Phyllis, what you're comfortable with $4 million?
Because you always have, you
And we don't
don't want to, but you always have your 7.5 million at 2.95 that you can always fall back on that if you absolutely have to.
That's what we're gonna use for operations until
Yeah,
collection of real estate taxes begin.
yeah.
I have
The
a,
construction
not
will be financed by continued advances on the new.
Yeah.
are there any restrictions, the $7 million or 2.95%, that goes until April of 25? Are there any restrictions on that? I mean, can we spend it on anything?
No, it must be
No.
on construction,
Construction only?
yes.
Must it be spent or committed by 4/25?
You don't have to spend any of it.
No, but I mean, if you wanna use it.
You can
Yes.
spend, you can spend all or none. It's a floating,
Okay.
what's the word, Chris?
But I guess my point is.
Short term,
Sure.
Bridge.
My point is,
Not a line of credit.
at 2.95%, I think we'd be foolish not to use most of that.
Well, that's the intent.
That was the
That,
intent.
okay, I just wanna make sure we're
But
all
must be,
agree
Use
with that.
most
must
of it
be
on
for
construction projects.
Yeah.
Oh, right,
Basically,
okay,
it's
that's
for-
fine,
Let's call a spade, it's for the burger garage.
Yeah,
right, okay, that's fine.
And then hopefully interest rates by the time you come March or April, when you, project's complete, and you convert that to a longer term debt, interest rates aren't at 5, they're down to 4 something,
Or something,
or
right.
5.
Okay, so
And you
so
can
we're,
convert them to longer term.
so we're all committed to this same way, okay, that's fine. Fine.
Okay, so we're staring at, right now, we're getting 5.56. If we went 270 days, we'd be getting 5.19. So we are hedging our bet on that difference in that. If we go to 270 days, if we go 240
And we don't
days.
need to do the entire amount
Well,
for one specific term.
correct.
Right. 2 and 3.
Although, I don't know, what are we gaining if we don't put the whole thing into 270 days versus 180 days if we really don't need the money? I know it's 5.34 versus 5.19, but like he said, if interest rates do start coming down,
Well, the shorter term you take, if you go to like the 5.34, you're risking less differential between the 5.54. So if you spread it out between 180, 210, 240, and 270, if you want to do 4 million, put $1 million in each, you're
yeah,
risking less of your hedge as opposed to more. Depends what your comfort level is of if you really believe interest rates are coming down.
scarily enough, that's exactly what I was thinking. So I was thinking 3 million, not 4 million.
I'm lost.
Yeah.
I don't think so, just because I'm gonna need this to put in the report, so you want a
You need
million?
recommendations, is what you're telling me. to put in
No.
the
We're
report.
not gonna make a motion today,
Right.
we're just having a conversation.
So the conversation would be, maybe it's a good idea to take $4 million out and invest it in affiliate funds, $1 million at 180, $1 million at 210, $1 million at 240, and $1 million at 270.
Yeah,
back up to 6 to roll.
That won't, no way.
And if they do,
By the time that we
we're
reach those
trying to project
terms,
long-term
we'll
stuff.
have excess real estate tax money to invest as well.
Okay. And, I'm not gonna talk about this, the 4.85 that you get from Tompkins, that's not, there's no term guarantee, that can change month to month,
That changes,
day to day.
yeah.
Okay.
That does not change immediately, but it can change without notice.
Okay,
I'm surprised that's.
thank you, thanks Keith. December, so we're done with the results, so we need a, motion to, in my opinion, approve the business manager to draw on the Tompkins General Obligation Note in the amount of $276,997.57
So
for the expenditures incurred pending the, for January's council meeting. So we have a motion to go ahead and do that.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're gonna abstain.
I abstain due to the fact that I work at Tompkins Financial Corporation. I ask if there's any no's. Sorry, I gotta get used to that part. All right, so the ayes have it. Okay, insurance rates.
Sure, we got the news last week that the number of villas had budgeted for insurance versus what the quotes from the carriers it was sent out to came in at, were very different. I think you proposed, what, a 3%?
I anticipated a 6% increase. That was pretty much following CPI and giving it a little additional cushion. So the budget was for a 6% increase over the current year policies, and the numbers you're seeing before us represent closer to a 24% increase.
Some of that is coming, some of the claim history within the past 2 to 3 years. You can see on this worksheet broken down by automobile, general liability, law enforcement, et cetera, the different policies that we have, what the claims were per policy year, and then total losses paid. There is some pending litigation under liability that I'm not gonna get into, but just say that there's pending litigation, that I think that's factoring into this. There were several workers' comp, heart and lung claims in 23 as well. Unfortunately, our heart and lung carrier is the only heart and lung carrier, so there's no option to shop around on that. We also requested to shop around. Amtrust is the workers' comp carrier. They leave a lot to be desired, but unfortunately, the cost to the Wellsworth can't be justified. So it's not great news starting the budget off with a difference of 18% for insurance rates alone.
It
But-
equates to about 68,000 that the budget is short versus the current year policies.
Unfortunately, that's what we're stuck with.
All right, January 4th, and we're digging already.
I will include that on my January variance schedule.
So next year, you're gonna look at shopping it again?
Yeah. And possibly different broker.
Well, everybody predicted it was gonna go up, and indeed they're going
Yeah,
up.
I'll publicly say, I failed. I should have told us to do more than 6%, because although I don't do anything with that property casualty insurance market, all my clients do, and I haven't seen anything that is 6% right now. It's worse than the health
Of the
insurance
increase
marketplaces.
that we're looking at, how much of that is based on the payouts for the insurance being utilized as opposed to there were no issues?
That was their justification for the large increase.
So it would have been 6% if everybody stayed healthy.
No.
We don't know that.
Well,
One,
it could have been 8%.
Not just health insurance, so this is liability, automobile, general, umbrella,
Actually, health insurance
went down.
went down 1%. We're talking about general insurance and workers' comp insurance.
Property.
This is the buildings and the cars and the people, not the health of the people.
Everything you read is up 15, 20%, no matter where you read.
Ironically, the one category that went down 1% was our cyber insurance. And
That's because there's more insurance
2 years
carriers in
ago.
that marketplace now.
yeah,
That's the reason.
that makes sense.
Yeah, there's more carriers that are getting in that marketplace, so that therefore there will be more competitive rates. Okay. Then let's time in conjunction with financial results. Is there anything else for the group?